My name is Nadia Fiorita. I am a licensed therapist and anxiety expert. I'm located in Miami, Florida, but I am licensed in Florida and Connecticut, and I operate a full virtual private practice. And
Awesome.
I focus on, you know, and specialize in helping women overcome high functioning anxiety. And
Amazing.
my Instagram handle is holistic anxiety therapist.
Yes. And we are going to talk a lot about Instagram and Reels, particularly today.
Yes.
Maybe start by giving us just a little bit of background about like when you started Instagram and kind of where you're at now.
So I started Instagram, like really kind of leaning into Instagram for like anxiety and mental health and therapy. I think it was like late spring of 2022.
Yep.
And that's when I first signed up for the Reels membership. I had really wanted to get started, but didn't really have like I think direction and clarity on like what to post and what would help me grow and what would help me speak to my ideal client.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it was
Cool.
I guess 2 years ago now,
Yep.
right?
And where is your Instagram page at now? I say that as if like every therapist here probably doesn't already follow you with your huge audience.
Right now it's at 336,000 followers.
Wild. That is incredible growth in 2 years.
Yes.
So let's back up a bit. In April 2022, you joined the Reels membership. In May 2022, you bought PPA. And then I was going through our DMs, and in September 2022, you had less than 3,000 followers, and your first Reel went super viral.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that Reel and just kind of like what happened there.
It's funny because I remember coming up with that reel like just well, you had given us the hooks.
Yeah.
And I remember just one day like spontaneously like, okay, and I think it was after like just feeling a little bit of maybe discouragement because we can have
Yeah.
those moments of discouragement. And I just remember I was like, okay, this is the reel I'm going to do. These are like four things that I can act out. And then I just posted it. And it wasn't
Yeah.
really, I don't think I had like a long caption at all. It was me acting out. And I think the the hook was four things women with high functioning anxiety don't want you to see,
Yeah.
demonstrated by a licensed therapist. So, um, yeah, I just put it out there. I had no idea that it would even speak to people. Because before that, I think I had just been doing like more general anxiety. I hadn't really kind of niched down to that high functioning anxiety yet.
Yeah.
And it went crazy viral. It hit like 3.4 or 5 million views.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
3.5 million people.
Yep.
Do you have any idea like how many followers about that helped you grow or
It took me from about 3,000 followers to over 100,000 followers.
wow.
I couldn't even keep up with like, and it happened over a period of time. I think it was over like maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And I was like, what is happening? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's wild because with reels, they can happen kind of like slowly and then all of a sudden they just like really take off a few weeks later and it can be so shocking and so disorienting. What was it like for you to gain 100,000 followers in basically a month?
It was like exciting and
Yeah.
like um I felt proud and at the same time it was like very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And felt like a lot of pressure if I'm being
And
like very honest. Yeah.
yeah, in what way? I feel like that's super important to talk about because so many therapists like see that kind of win. Even myself, I haven't had like I've had stuff go viral, but never explosive growth like that. Maybe it's been like 5,000 followers from a reel or something.
Right, right.
And so I think that therapists see that and they're like, dang, I want that. Like, why can't I be that lucky? But probably every therapist that I talk to that actually has gone viral in that way, it's been really stressful. And then also in for some people like even bad for business at times of like engagement really drops and all that. So tell me about the pressure that you felt.
I think it was just like more pressure to show up and like I think with therapists, like you really want to come off like knowing what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
there's very these are personal things that you're talking about. It's mental health, it's emotional well-being. So I was like very excited. I'm like, this is what I've been wanting, right?
Yeah.
Like this growth and people booking consultation calls. And at the same time, there's this pressure to like show up a lot more, be very, a lot more engaged, showing up on stories. So I think there's a pressure with that, and we all know that that could lead to burnout and like overwhelm and stress.
Yeah.
So I remember feeling that like very I was very in tune to that at that time.
That Instagram kind of went from something that you were trying for your business to like, this is my business now.
Yeah, and I think I never knew I would get that much growth. I think
Yep.
for a lot of people, their things go viral, but they don't necessarily actually grow their following that much. So I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is like really speaking to people, this particular reel. And there was just like so much engagement, and everyone was like, oh my God, this is me. Like, so it just really hit people and resonated with people.
Do you have theories on why like that 3.5 million views actually converted into 100,000 followers instead of just, people viewing it and kind of moving on?
I don't. Like when I think about it, I'm like, maybe it was my bio, maybe it was like
Yeah.
the I help statement that I had. Um, and I don't even remember what my call to action was at that point. I think actually in that reel, and what helped it go viral was that I said, share this with your community.
Yeah.
And so I think people just kept sharing it, and that really helped it to, like Instagram just kept pushing it out,
Yeah.
because there was so much engagement. But I I don't really have a theory. Yeah. The only thing that I can say is like maybe my bio like just really spoke to people at that point.
Yep. I think that that bio matters so much. And then I also wonder if, like, you had been on Instagram for a few months at that time, creating content around anxiety. I know that it took you a few weeks for it to go from like normal viral to like, what the heck is this viral? And so I imagine, knowing what we're going to talk about next, that, you kind of leaned into high functioning anxiety at that time. Right.
Yeah.
And so by the time people get to your page 4, 5, 6 weeks later, there's tons of posts about high functioning anxiety. And so they're really able to see like, hey, not only does she really get me with this reel and these things that I don't want anybody to know about me, but there's also all this other, helpful tips and information and other ways that she gets me when I go and visit her page.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it helped me to kind of even get more specific and niche down in terms of who I was speaking to. And even as a therapist and a clinician, it helped me to determine who do I really love working with.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really helpful. And I really did lean into it. So I think when people were coming to my page, they were probably binging other things. And they
Yep.
were like, oh, what's this? What's this reel? And yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that for sure.
So was that just like a one and done, went viral once, or what has it been like for you to kind of create reels after that point?
Um, so I've had a bunch of reels go viral. And I think we were talking about this like in the mastermind. Like every
Yeah.
few months I have one that goes like very, very viral. And to go from like over 100,000 to now over 330,000, like I'm still kind of like in shock.
Yep.
So I've had other reels that have gone very viral, and then other reels that kind of just do. I mean, there's a range, of course, right? But
Yep.
there are a few. I don't even know how many, but some that have gone over like 150,000 views or 450,000 views.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
How do you think about content now? Right? Like when you are creating a reel, um, what is that process like for you? How are you kind of deciding what might go viral, what might do really well?
That's a really good question. I mean, I really try to tune into what I'm hearing from people that I get on consultation calls with, or just um, any particular themes that I'm hearing with my clients.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I've also learned how to keep things kind of more simple.
Yeah.
I think like therapists, or maybe just content creators in general, tend to overthink things and overcomplicate things and really want to be perfect in what they are creating and putting out there. Um, and so I feel like now I know the language and the words that speak to people.
Yeah.
And I really just kind of focus on keeping it simple and doing what works,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I think one thing I've noticed with you too is that you're less focused on like, here's like these tips for you or something, and are much more focused on helping people feel seen and understood, right? Like even that first reel that went super viral of 4 things that people with high functioning anxiety don't want you to see, like that's really validating and affirming for people that you get them.
Hmm.
And I can just think of like so many others that you've done of like why people with high functioning anxiety get angry, or like, all these things are just really focused on helping people to see themselves in your content versus I need to try and like quote unquote fix you with an Instagram reel or give you this secret hack or tip that's going to make your anxiety go away.
Hmm.
That there's really just so much power, as we know as therapists, in making people feel seen and understood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on the phone with a woman and she has said, if I ask, where did you learn about me or where did you find me? It's, 99% of the time from an Instagram reel that either they found or someone shared with them. And so many times I've heard, I feel like you were talking directly to me.
Yeah.
Like I've heard that so many times. So I think you're absolutely right. And I do try to offer, you know, not just content that's resonating, but also, tips and ways to, help manage it more effectively. But yes, I think like for the most part I've really leaned into um content that really resonates and makes people feel like seen and heard and understood, like, oh my god, she gets me.
And I think what's so cool is like, one thing that I think has really helped your Reels a lot is using ManyChat. So for people who don't know what ManyChat is, it's like you comment a specific keyword and then Instagram will send people like a DM with a link. And like that is such a powerful way that you're able to help people. Like so many of your Reels, I see you be like, comment, calm, and I'll send you my guide for dealing with high functioning anxiety, right? And
Hmm.
so it kind of takes off this pressure of, I need to give them tips in like a 7-second reel. And instead, we're able to make them feel
Right.
seen and then send them something much more substantial and free that's going to help them if, they're resonating with that.
Yeah, absolutely. ManyChat has been so helpful. I think it also helps take the pressure off you feeling like you need to. I mean, I always love to respond to every single comment,
Yeah.
but when you have a crazy reel that goes viral, it's like literally you just can't keep up.
Yep.
Um, so ManyChat has been really really helpful, and yeah, I think it's amazing that you could create something free and give people the value that way. And I think that using ManyChat, and I think we started that together. That was one of the things that you and I had figured out that it was helpful for me to use when we were doing like the one-on-one coaching.
Yep.
um, that really helped, at least in my mind, the way I think about it. The theory is that ManyChat really helped the 2 reels that I did at the end of October go very, very viral, like 30 million views viral.
Yep.
And it grew my email following to like 20,000 or something
Yep.
crazy like that. So, yeah, ManyChat has been very, very helpful.
Do you remember those 2 reels that went viral in October? It might be helpful if we could break those down for folks too.
Yes. So one of them was a reel that I didn't even create. It was an audio that I was literally like standing up and doing like one, like it was just like five
Yeah.
signs of high functioning anxiety. So I had no idea that that one was going to go viral. But again, that was more of like a problem awareness one. Like, like I think that really kind of spoke to people. It was relatable.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think that was the first reel that I used the ManyChat on to help people
Mm-hmm.
get my free guide and then to get on the email list if they wanted to continue to get some education and, just be on the newsletter to get additional resources. Um, so that was one of the ones that went viral. And I do believe that ManyChat, the engagement with ManyChat helped to continue to push that one out and go really
Totally.
viral.
Because everyone's commenting instead of just, scrolling or liking it or even sharing it, they're saying
Mm-hmm.
the word calm to be
Right.
like, hey, I get it, because they
Right.
want that free guide.
Right. Absolutely. And then the other one was a was the angry reel.
Yep.
I think like how your high functioning anxiety might show up as anger.
Yep.
And that was another one that I acted out. um, that was the other one that went viral. And
Yep.
I think that really resonated with people because in general, there's not a lot of conversation around how anxiety is connected to anger and
Yep.
how those two can, really relate to one another. Um, and I think in particular, women don't like feeling angry,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, oh, this is connected to my anxiety. Oh, that makes sense. Or that's interesting. Or,
Yep.
I want to know more about that. So that was the other reel that went viral in December.
And it's so cool that like I definitely am seeing a pattern here that all three of those ones that went mega mega viral were basically like, here's blank signs that something's happening with your high functioning anxiety, right?
Right. Right.
Either it's something you want to hide, it's something that you have that you're kind of like, miming from the audio, or it's how anger is impacting it. And I think that that's just like such a good rinse and repeat format for you and for other therapists to try out, of how can we get super, super specific, right? So like, I don't know if you remember them or we could pull them up, but I think one thing that you do such a good job with is you're not just like 5 signs you have high functioning anxiety. You're worrying all the time. You're overthinking, right? Like you're being really, really specific with some of the
Mm-hmm.
signs that you give.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really what helps people feel so seen and so understood, is that those clients deeply. And so you're able to go beyond like, here's the 5 criteria in the DSM, and actually talk about, how this really shows up for people in real life.
Yes. Yes. I think I really just started tuning into like how it shows up in people's habits and behaviors, right? So
Yeah.
like the never ending to-do list, um, the cleaning and organization stuff, the
Yeah.
overthinking or racing thoughts. There's a plethora of, I think, things that I've used in my content, but I really just started tuning into what people were sharing with me, and also just like what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like how does my own high functioning anxiety show up? Well, I clean, I tend to procrastinate, I avoid certain things, or it shows up in perfectionism or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably maybe the other thing that people maybe see in my content. I do try to be authentic and vulnerable as well. So um yeah, I think people take a note on that.
Yeah. I think that we can be our own best, like, inspiration, focus group, idea generator. I definitely feel the same with sharing my own anxiety content.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So something I wanted to talk about today is kind of like repurposing and even reposting content is something that I've seen you do a lot with viral ideas that have gone well. Tell me a little bit more about that and kind of how you use that strategy in your content.
Um that's a really good question. And I think it's something that you and I talked about, because there were times where I was feeling a little more burnt out, or I feel like less creative. or maybe just a lot of time has passed
Yeah.
and I have a lot of new people on my page, so I can repurpose content. And I will do it with just the same reel, maybe a different audio.
Yeah.
So it's just like the same exact content, but it's a different audio. Maybe I change up the caption a little bit, or provide tips or strategies, less of the, I want you to feel seen and understood content, but like, here's
Yeah.
like practical things that you can actually do about it or what to take action on. And other times when I repurpose content, I try to do it in a totally different way. So if it's a reel that's gone viral, maybe I'll make it into one image, but I'll
Yeah.
use visuals, or maybe I'll create a 5 series carousel,
Yeah.
so people can take it in a different way. Um, and I do try to kind of mix it up a little bit so it's not like the same thing, but it's usually around the same topic or issue.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of how I've done it. And for that, you have to really keep track of, I think that's the other thing, is like I have this whole Google Doc, and I've kept track of all my posts and really try to look at my insights and analytics to see what does really, really well, and try to come up with, well, why did this go viral? Why did this speak to people? Or how might they have found it helpful? And just kind of do more of that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And so with kind of the reposting, you're basically downloading that same video. Like you're not even refilming it. We're just kind of using the same video and maybe switching up the sound and the and the caption, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will redo the video part.
Yeah.
If I feel like I've used it too many times,
Yeah.
I really don't. I have like a feeling around repurposing, because I
Yeah.
really want to be able to create new stuff, but at the same time, it's a lot of work, right? And it
Oh,
takes a lot of
totally.
time. Um, so I will re-record it, especially if it's a B-roll or if it's acting out. It really doesn't take that long to do some of the acting out videos, because you know
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing, and it's really just right. The clips are like super short.
Yeah. It's
So
cool that you've been able to do it both ways of like, especially during seasons of like burnout or being really busy, of literally just being like, I'm going to download this and repost it.
yeah.
And then other times where you're like, I'm feeling more creative. I want it to have like fun new content, but I know this really resonated with people. I know people need to see it. I know that it's going to do well. You're able to kind of recreate it and make it a little bit new, a little bit fresh.
Yes.
When
Yes.
you've reposted the old content that's already done well, has it done well like a second and third time? Or,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Usually it does. Maybe not as well, but it
yeah,
usually does. Um, And I think you have to really, I know you're not necessarily asking me this question, but
yeah,
like, in just kind of preparing for our podcast, I was just going through my reels. And for anybody listening, like, I think it's just really helpful to tune into what really works, and where people are really just engaging. Because also, like, the point of view reels, those were becoming popular. So I was like, let
mm-hmm,
me just try this. And like, I've had a number of those go really, really viral. And it's really just like, point of view, you're overthinking, you have a never ending to do list,
yeah,
you tend to overwork and stay busy, and you found my account,
yeah.
right? So it's again, you're just like really kind of speaking directly to the person, to the client.
Yeah. And it's still, again, kind of like that same pattern of like validating what they're experiencing. We're just kind of packaging it up in different ways, right? So
Exactly.
sometimes we act it out. Sometimes we do like a B-roll reel with like POV written on top. Sometimes we do, a trending audio where somebody else is kind of dictating them. But I think that it's so cool that it's that same sort of like formula of what you're
Hmm.
bringing to the reel that is doing well time and time again.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'll link these 4 reels that Nadia is talking about in the show notes if you want to check them out. I think that they are great inspiration, just to kind of see what we're talking about here. Tell me a little bit. I know that you have like a little bit of team support now. What content creation looks like for you at this point, and kind of like what your planning process is in order to stay consistent, to come up with ideas, all that.
Yeah, so I'm actually in a transition period. So I'm going to be working. I had a VA and an online business manager, but I'm just going to be working with my online business manager, who's going to be helping me with content creation. And honestly, I've done a very poor job at planning and prepping, and I feel like it's always my goal to be more planful. It's mostly just been spontaneous.
Yeah.
I'll probably prep like 2 reels or maybe 3 reels at a time, and I'm trying to get better at that. So sometimes I'll just kind of sit on Instagram and look at other people's accounts that have done really, really well. And it might not even be a mental health account, it might be
Yeah.
something totally different. And I just kind of check out what they're doing, what works, and how I can use it for what I want to share, the value that I'm creating, and how it could work for my audience.
Yeah.
So I'll just kind of identify like audios that I want to use, and then just come up with a few different ideas. Um, and that really doesn't take that much time.
Yeah.
And also your Reels membership is, you can really just like plug it in, right? And
Yeah.
just do the content. So that's also been great as well. With my online business manager, we are going to be kind of planning things out a week or two at a time. But I think with me, I tend to just be more spontaneous and creative in the moment. So maybe I'll have something planned out, but I do like to have the flexibility to say, okay, maybe we don't do this one today because I really like this idea that I have in
Yeah.
my mind, and I want to just kind of put it out there. Um, so yeah, trying to be planful, but also like have the flexibility as well.
That's exactly what I do with my team too at this point, and they probably think that it's so annoying because every week we come up with a plan, and then every week I end up changing at least one thing.
Yep.
Whether it's I got my Nespresso machine, so I'm like, screw today's reel about anxiety. We're talking about that. But I think that it's just so fun to be able to have. For me, it feels really grounding to know if I don't have any ideas, if I don't have any
Yes.
time, there's content planned, it can be posted, there's no worries. I don't feel like pressure to have to create in that way. But if I do feel like a spark of creativity or I have something I want to talk about, that can easily be shuffled. We can push it to the next week, and I get to post about like what feels fun or exciting or what
Yes.
new idea I had. So
Yes.
I love that you're doing that too.
Yes. I completely agree. I think when you have things planned out, you at least know that you have something to kind of fall back on. And then
Yeah.
and then if you want to change it, you can do that too. And I feel like I apologize to my team all the time. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I want to change this idea. Like, please be patient with me. And you know, so yeah, I can relate to that as well.
Yeah. How frequently were you posting when you were kind of like in that beginning growth stage of trying to go viral and grow your audience? And how much are you posting now?
In the beginning, I was posting, I want to say I was trying to post like 5 or 6 days a week. So
Yeah.
a lot. And I really try to do 5 days a week still. But there have been some weeks that maybe I've posted 4 times or maybe even
Yeah.
3, just because of the season that I'm in right now,
Yeah.
and how busy I am. But trying to kind of get back to that. I really like it to be like Monday through Friday at least. Um,
Yeah.
and then sometimes on the weekends, if I'm feeling like, you know, energetic or creative, or I want to put something out there, then I can do that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Do you think that that consistency is important or like that posting frequency?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's key. I think it's key, especially in the beginning. Yeah, I
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about like there there have been some creators that I've come upon that don't post that much, but the way that they're showing up has so much impact
Yeah.
that they really don't need to post that much, and their account has gone crazy viral.
Yeah.
So I think consistency is important, but I think also it's important to note that like you want to do quality over quantity,
Yeah.
right? Like just don't put something out there just to put something out there.
Totally. And I think that, especially in the beginning, it's super helpful of like giving yourself the opportunity to practice, to try lots of new ideas, and
Hmm.
to get good at creating content. If you're just posting twice a week, it's going to take you 5 times as long to get good and do your first 100 posts as somebody who's posting every day.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I was able to really kind of learn things and pick things up much more quickly because I was doing it that much more frequently. And then it just became like, oh, this is not even taking me that long. It's taking me 10 or 15 minutes to post something versus when you're just starting out and you have no idea how a reel works or how to edit it or how to add the audio or any of that stuff or how to do the text or how to write the caption and I mean, there's so many different elements to
Yep.
it that it could definitely be overwhelming. And that can take you out of action. So if you really want to grow your Instagram and you really want to show up and use Instagram as a marketing tool, then you definitely have to stay consistent.
Amazing. What is one piece of advice you would share for therapists who are wanting to grow their Instagram following?
I would say two things, if that's
Yeah,
okay. I would
totally.
say
I'll take it.
I would let go of the perfectionism and just like take action, even if it's messy and imperfect. Like just start showing up
Yeah.
because you will get better, and things will come more easily to you over time. And I think too, focus less on yourself and
Yeah.
more on serving your audience and creating value and having an impact and really, taking on that authority, and being confident in what you can provide and serve to your audience.
Yeah. When you say focus less on yourself, do you mean from like a mindset perspective of kind of getting out of your head or in the
Yes.
content itself?
That's a good question. I would say worry less about like yourself, like
Yeah.
getting out of your own head. Like I feel like people worry about, well, are they going to judge me or is this even good
Yeah.
content, right? It is good content, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a passionate, committed, talented therapist, you're going to create amazing content and you're going to create content that speaks to people. So it's more so like get out of your own head. um I think when I've made it about me in terms of like how my high functioning anxiety can show up in myself, that's been helpful because it's
Yeah.
allowed me to really kind of know what resonates with people. So it's more so like get out of your own head and really just focus on how can I serve my client? How can I teach them? How can I provide value that they can actually take away from the content?
I think going back to that goal is so helpful because, I'll at least speak for myself. When I first started my Instagram, my goal was like, let me help more people. Right. And then I decided that I was going to go full time in my business. And so then I put all this goals and pressure around now it's about me. Now I need more clients. Now I need more money. Now I need more followers. Now I need to
Mm,
network more. And there was definitely a period where that I think like hurt my growth a little bit because I was
mm,
putting all this pressure on it. And I think being able to go back to what do my clients need to hear today, what is going to help people, just makes you create better content
yeah,
that then ends up also serving you and serving your business, right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's just sort of about shifting like the priorities there, I think is super helpful.
Yes, I think that's exactly right what you just said, for sure. Then you end up getting the outcome and the result that you want, which is working with more people, increasing your fee, maybe getting more people to book calls, expanding your private practice, you know, and then beyond that, right?
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity now with Instagram and just being online, creating courses, creating workshops, workbooks, all of the things now that we've never been able to, I think, do in our field. I think it's amazing.